Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests of all areas of ad tech, martech, and media. I'm Nancy Tefera-Santos, Senior Vice President, eMarketer at Insider Intelligence. Today, we have a great presentation. You'll hear how connected TV can supercharge your cross-channel ad strategy. This is your opportunity to learn. We want it to be an educational journey. So please use the chat window to send in questions during the presentation. I'll get to as many as I can during the Q&A, so promise me you're going to keep them coming. Now I want to introduce two very special guests. I have with me today Jon Zucker, Senior Product Marketing Manager from Mountain, as well as Ashlee Anderson, Director of Marketing from Rumpl, a Portland company that has our favorite cozy blankets. Jon and Ashlee, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. It's so nice to have you here today. I had a little sneak peek of your presentation. I have to say I learned an awful lot. So, Jon, I want to turn it on over to you and let's get started.
All right, sounds good. So today we're going to talk about how CTV's performance marketing capabilities create a halo effect that boosts the outcomes of other advertising channels. We already know that with the right technology behind it, connected TV can go from just a pure branding channel into one that actually drives down funnel outcomes like conversions, revenue, and return on ad spend. But it doesn't just stop there. Connected TV goes beyond just driving performance on its own, but it can also help boost the performance of paid search, paid social, email, and beyond. And so our agenda for today is we're going to talk about what CTV's halo effect is and the opportunities that it unlocks, how to use CTV to reinforce existing ad campaigns on other channels, paid search, social, and beyond, like I said. Then I'm going to turn it over to Ashlee to talk about Rumpl's CTV story and how they were able to get a halo effect that helped, their entire marketing mix. And finally, how to pick the right CTV platform to really maximize that halo effect and make sure you're getting the most value out of every channel that you're activating. So let's set the stage a little bit. Connected TV is an evolving channel. In 2023, the streaming landscape is pretty advertiser friendly. Netflix and Disney recently launched their own ad-supported channels. They joined HBO Max, Peacock, Hulu, and other streamers who have embraced ads. And they've been able to offer consumers a more affordable way to stream their favorite content. So consumers like this because they save money. Advertisers like this because there's more opportunity than ever. And there's more technology that's now being built to support those advertisers. There's major advancements in that technology. There's new capabilities to take advantage of. The result is really great for everybody. There's more must-see content. There's more services offering relevant and targeted ads. There's more viewers watching those ads. And on top of all of that, there's more you can even do with those ads to drive those outcomes that really help push your business forward. And so CTV plays a really important mix in driving your business forward. Despite CTV's rise to power, we know that other ad channels are still an important part of the marketing mix, and you need to be able to diversify those channels to drive the best performance possible. Today's consumers use an omnichannel approach to research. They read a lot of reviews before making a purchase. They're looking at those reviews on their phone, their laptop, on their tablets. They're watching their televisions, and all these different touch points are really important for driving from your initial branding all the way down to actually a consumer making a purchase on your site through your app, et cetera. So advertisers really need to follow this consumer journey, employ the same strategy, create a presence in these channels to make sure you meet consumers where they are and drive them down towards, down your funnel towards that conversion. And so to do so, you really don't want to put all of your ad eggs in one basket. So that omni-channel approach is more important than ever before. And that's why you can't rely on just one channel versus another. Paid search, for example, that only really captures prospects that are actively searching for your product or some competitive keywords. So there's a cap on the amount of people that you can actually reach and convert. Paid social ads, they're a good complement, but they appear in that scroll-heavy environment, making it hard to tell your brand's entire story. People aren't quite as leaned in, especially with their attention for a considerable amount of time to really understand who you are. So relying on either of these two channels alone, or even together, it caps the number of customers you can drive to your site who will eventually convert. But when you add CTV into the mix with its targeting, measurement, and that real non-skippable storytelling in the living room environment when people are really leaned in, that can help provide a halo effect that makes paid search and paid social more effective while also driving conversions in their own right. So with CTV, it really is a situation where a rising tide lifts all ships. So we did our own internal study here at Mountain, and we looked at people who were impacted by CTV versus people who weren't impacted by CTV. We found that people who watched a CTV ad and then visited a site actually stayed on for 49% longer than people who were driven to that site by paid social, and 19% longer than people who were driven to the site by paid search. So if you're a B2C advertiser, that's more people looking, engaging with your brand, looking at more products, considering that purchase and really connecting to that experience. They're going to be somebody who's pushed farther down the funnel, and they'll either convert in that moment or they'll be easier to convert later. If you're a B2B advertiser, we know that 90% of B2B decisions are actually made based on companies that are in that initial consideration set. So it is really, really critical if you're going to actually close that deal later to be in that initial consideration set. So when people are visiting your site for longer, they're learning about your offering, they're putting you in that consideration set, and it's setting you up to convert later when they're actually willing to enter that buying cycle. So all of this goes to the next data points, which is we looked at advertisers who didn't have CTV 90 days before, and then looked at the performance of their other channels 90 days after adding CTV to their mix. And we saw that their conversion rates for paid social went up by 9% on average, and their conversion rates for paid search actually increased by 22% on average. So this halo effect is really real. People who are engaging with your brand story, understanding who you are, trying to, wanting to visit your site later, they're going on, they're engaging through paid search, they're engaging through paid social, and they're converting at a higher rate. So we know that this halo effect is definitely real and definitely can help improve all of your marketing channels. And so at this point, I'll pass it over to Ashlee to talk more specifically about her experience with Rumpl.
Thanks, Jon. I'm really excited to share about how Rumpl has utilized CTV to grow our business. To begin, I think to start, why did we actually partner with Mountain and go towards CTV? So we had a majority of our ad spend in Meta and paid search. However, with the iOS 14 update, as most people know, we saw significant inefficiencies within Meta that did not recover. So we started to look for opportunities to diversify our ad spend, CTV being one of them. We really felt that CTV would allow us to continue our growth by reaching our new consumers, but also re-engaging with existing consumers based on their behavior, which ultimately led us to partner with Mountain and Connected TV. So why Mountain? There's four main reasons, but there's a lot more. We didn't feel like linear TV was a great efficient use of our budget. You had to really target based on channels and shows. So we're kind of taking a guess where our audience was, whereas CTV allows us to define our audience and actually make a decision and then push our budget towards that. Mountain also allows us to easy access to our metrics that can allow for real-time optimizations. So they integrate directly with Google Analytics, so we can look at how our CTV stacks up against the rest of our channels and the attribution directly there. They also have a robust platform that gets very granular with options such as region, channels, audience, and creative. So we can really take our learnings and make decisions quickly. And this data really allows us to tell what creative is performing well and why. That's something that we didn't feel like we could get from linear TV, and the fact that most of the data came in after and was more backed in data and less of real-time data. We also felt like the audience segments were really in depth with CTV and Mountains particularly, and more in depth with Meta. Meta continues to remove audiences and recommend broader approaches, while Mountain adds new ones often to really allow you to target the people that you want to target. And they have a really robust audience segmentation. You can target based on purchase history, where they shop, and then what they're actually interested in, to name a few. And then kind of circling back to that first piece, we can actually tell how easy an audience is, or tell how well an audience is performing, which allows us much more transparency than we felt like we could get on other channels. It allows us, again, to make those optimizations quickly. We've applied those learnings to actually also improve our other channels, which I will talk about more in depth in a few slides. And then we are a member of MNTN's CAS program, or creative as a subscription, which has allowed us to take our video creative to the next level. It saved us time, money, and resources, and it's something that we haven't seen really with any other platform, which makes them stand out. So quickly talking about the campaigns by the numbers. So we launched, to start in 2021, we launched both prospecting and retargeting campaigns with MNTN. We also have tested retention campaigns with them as well to drive loyalty and repeat purchasers during different consumer moments and seasonality. But we always have prospecting and retargeting campaigns on. The results have far exceeded our expectations. Typically, we see about a 4.92 ROAS, which is about 64% higher than our target. So we're beating our efficiencies. This is one of our highest performing channels in terms of attribution. Yeah, so to talk about our halo effect story. So performance TV and CTV has really created a halo effect by really boosting those underperforming ads on other channels, specifically on paid search, which is a channel that we saw a great ROAS with, but we actually saw a significant increase when we launched MNTN. We saw a 164% increase in our conversion rate when compared to the previous 90 days that we weren't on MNTN. So people were learning about our brand in a more visual way, and then researching via Google or Bing, and then we were actually seeing that conversion rate increase, which is really great, exciting, and feels like it was just more of a cohesive consumer journey rather than these siloed effects where someone might have Googled camping blanket or something else and not known about Rumpl and seen that visual creative piece. CTV also drove more than just conversion rate revenue. MNTN's driven a 51% longer average session duration than Meta. So people who see a CTV ad are coming to our website and staying longer, which means that they feel like they got better information and they were able to had more information that they could be more engaged on our website. CTV's allowed us to really showcase our product in a new and different way that allowed our consumers to learn more about us and convert, whether it was directly from a CTV ad, the follow-up multi-touch display ad that MNTN provides, Facebook or PPC. It all helped make those ads more efficient. I think one thing too, just I want to chat about, MNTN provides actually a multi-touch channel. So you have a CTV ad and then they do a follow-up with the display, which is something that you don't see in a lot of places. And it really allows us to really continue to talk to that consumer when they're highly engaged. And that's something that's really kept us with them as well. And then MNTN ultimately has brought in audiences that were higher engaged and led to more conversions across all of our channels. So I talked about this a little bit previously, but MNTN's creative as a subscription or CAS program has been a halo effect on itself. We get a new ad on a quarterly basis bundled within our media spend. So essentially budget that we were going to spend on production and creating a TV ad ourselves, we've actually been able to use those with our subscription with MNTN and put those into working media dollars. So taking that dollar a little bit further than it would have gone before. And we worked with our reps and the creative agencies to really make the most optimized ads for CTV. So we get that insight with our MNTN reps because they understand what's working. They have that industry insight. And then the creative agencies through Quick Frame have really allowed us to really make the best ad possible, which is really exciting and something that we've continued to see grow within that program. And as they continue to grow, we've seen that we've grown as well. We've also been able to use those assets on our other channels, such as Meta and our website, to really drive that cohesive consumer journey. We've opted to do photo shoots to act within those CTV to leverage the existing talent, locations and sets that we've already have on hand and we've set up already. So we're telling a consistent story across all of our channels so that the consumer would have brand recognition if they came on our ad on another platform. So if they see us on our TV and then they see us on Facebook later, it feels cohesive. It feels easy to say, okay, this is Rumpl. But ultimately, CAS has allowed us to save money and put it back into finding quality consumers. So, which is, more than you can ask for in general. And then lastly, so just on our takeaways and final thoughts on Mountain, that was a lot. But to recap, Mountain has allowed us to diversify our spend and target more consumers. The Creative as a Subscription program has allowed us to tell cohesive and full stories across all of our digital channels. And the halo effect from CTV is broader than just one medium. So for spring, summer 23, we're actually able to reuse that money saved to deploy more ads on highly efficient channels such as CTV. And then ultimately, this has allowed us to tell a natural and complete brand story and can really bring our consumer journey to a full circle. Back to you, Jon.
Thanks, Ashlee. That was awesome. So I just want to cover a few more ways that CTV elevates other strategies, kind of forging stronger ad campaigns across the board. So we know that omni-channel marketing tactics and retargeting campaigns find audiences that watched an ad but didn't take further action. So CTV can really elevate your omni-channel strategies across the board. So page search and social no longer need to do that heavy lifting for your messaging. You can engage them in the living room where they're leaned in, tell your full brand story, and then increase the effectiveness of those other channels that are really just built to help drive to the site without telling that full story. You can now deploy CTV ads to share your message, use those other channels to convert and retarget. And CTV allows you to track your audience and outcomes, making it really the ideal performance marketing channel to slot along those other strategies. Kind of reiterating Ashlee's point, you can get really granular in your reporting, look at what creative strategies are working, look at what audience strategies are working, and apply those strategies to your other platforms who might not offer that same granularity of reporting. One other piece is CTV has some great social solutions. So like Ashlee mentioned, with Creative as a Subscription, you get quarterly creatives at no additional cost, and you can cut those down and reuse those across social. So you can tell that really cohesive brand story across all of your channels without investing extra time and money into the actual production of those ads. So that lets you reinvest money both on CTV, but also across social, across all of your channels. So you can optimize that full marketing mix and be able to tell the story and effectively drive those conversions even better. CTV also boosts linear TV. We know that linear TV still has those key big tentpole moments, and those tentpole moments are pretty expensive. So when you reach them, you should be pretty confident that that ad is going to resonate. For example, we know the Super Bowl is coming up. I just did a quick look. The average commercial costs $7 million, which is not nothing. So what's nice is with CTV, you can target your audiences. You can learn a lot. You can see what creative is resonating. So by the time you reach that moment where you're spending $7 million on one ad, you can be sure that that ad is going to resonate and it's going to help drive that additional halo effect on your other channels. So that's kind of huge. And you want to make sure you're getting the most out of all of your budget you're spending, especially if you're spending a pretty big amount of budget on a singular moment. So just giving a quick plug, why Mountain? So not all CTV solutions are created equal. Some are built specifically just for branding. Mountain gets your ad in the living room, gets that brand recognition, but it's also optimized with an automated optimization engine to really drive those down funnel outcomes like conversions, revenue, and ROAS. We do that in a number of different ways that make our platform unique. One is our living room quality inventory. You're only activating on 100+ direct deals with premium streaming networks on connected TVs. The other is cross-device verified visits. So we built a specific attribution model specifically for TV that can let you track when somebody watches a TV ad and then visits because of that TV ad. If somebody watches a TV ad and then clicks through your Facebook ad and visits the site, we actually don't give CTV credit for that visit. The reason is we want to make sure it's really easy to accurately be able to understand where your visits are coming from, where your conversions are coming from, so you can optimize accordingly. Like Ashlee mentioned, we have an Google Analytics integration. So this lets you measure CTV alongside your other channels, again, letting you make decisions a bit more intelligently. Already touched on performance optimization. We have a customizable dashboard, so you can report on every single down funnel metric, your impressions, what have you. You can A/B test. Reporting is built to be transparent, like I mentioned. And finally, is that fast advertising mentality. We want you to be able to make effective decisions quickly and simply. It's also one of the reasons we launched our Creative as a Subscription model. We want you to make sure you get high quality ads every quarter so you can refresh, you can learn, And that doesn't cost anything. So you can reinvest that money into working media and really drive the best outcomes possible. So to wrap up, if you have 4 takeaways from today, this is what we hope you have. Connected TV is more advertiser friendly than ever before. Streaming services are looking to drive down costs both for consumers and for advertisers. So there's more of an opportunity than ever before for everybody. CTV ads create a halo effect for brands, so boosting the engagement on sometimes underperforming campaigns across all channels, and really making sure, again, that a rising tide lifts all ships. So CTV's halo effect can actually be multiplied beyond just the conversion rates, the extra ROAS you're able to drive with services like Mountains Creative as a subscription, which let you save a little bit of money on your actual production costs and reinvest that money into media. And finally, not all CTV ad platforms are created equal, but with the right one, advertisers can really maximize the platform and drive performance across the ad channel spectrum. So at this point, I'm sure there's a bunch of extra questions that just came in. So Nancy, I'll pass it back to you, and hopefully we can address those.
Thank you, Ashlee and Jon. This was fantastic. Ashlee, thank you for sharing all these in-depth metrics of your campaign, how you got started, and how everything has worked for you with Mountain. What I loved, my takeaways, having been a marketer for so many years, the efficiencies, it's so important to be able to, you put so much money into creative, right? And so to be able to reuse things and repurpose across different channels, and like you said, that halo effect is so important. If you have something that's working and you could utilize it somewhere else and have that cohesive brand messaging, it's so critical to your business. So it was such a strong message to me, and I loved it. And so did the audience, because we have so many questions. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, strap yourself in. Here we go. So the first question we have is, how does Rumpl balance its marketing investment across CTV, paid search, paid social, and other channels to drive the best possible performance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's ever changing. So I would like to say that, but currently we really look at tacos and ROAS to tell where our efficiencies are. So tacos, which is total advertising cost of sale, allows us to tell if our dollars are being spent efficiently, regardless of attribution. So with that iOS 14 change, it has made it harder to tell, is Meta working, is Google working, is CTV working 100%, because some of those dollars are getting lost. So we use tacos to really make sure that that number is staying pretty flat or going down based on where we're spending our money. So we're looking at where we're noticing the efficiencies when we shift dollars around. We allow our dollars to be pretty fluid so that we can easily shift that budget. We set a monthly budget per channel, but we've worked with our finance team to really easily shift that budget, that if we notice CTV is outperforming this month, we can easily pull those dollars over from another channel and allow that growth to continue on. But yeah, ultimately tacos and ROAS kind of together is how we're looking at those from a performance marketing standpoint specifically.
Fantastic. And being able to shift those dollars is so important right now, especially when everybody's a little uncertain of the economy. So that's fantastic. Thank you for hitting on that. We've got a tough audience out there. So Ashlee, we're going to put you on the spot here in front of Jon. Somebody's asking, Ashlee, with your new investment with Mountain, did your CTV experience live up to your expectations? And were there any surprises?
I believe in transparency, but I will be completely honest. It did exceed our expectations, especially when we first launched. It was in the holiday of 2021, and we far exceeded our goals. And CTV was a major driver of that. I think one thing that's been really valuable to us, that's outside of just the way that the account actually performs, is our reps and the service that Mountain provides. Our reps are always in our accounts talking to us about optimizations, suggesting new audiences, suggesting ways to shift things around, showing us what's new, and making sure that we're getting everything up and running. That level of service has changed. They're ultimately a part of our marketing team, which is really great. What surprised me, we're an outdoor company. We sell outdoor blankets. Our consumer is heavily outdoorsy. So we launched, when we launched with CTV and with most of our channels, we really target that outdoor audience, people who are interested in hiking and camping and really being in the great outdoors. And our mountain rep came to us and said that, you sell blankets, maybe we could test a home decor audience or people who are, more on that fringe of outdoor living. They want to go outside. They might not just have time to go outside, all the time. And so we launched a home campaign, and that is one of our top performing campaigns. And we've actually used those insights within other channels. So we use it on Meta and things like that. And so we really learned that our consumer could kind of flow between the two. And sometimes we actually turn our outdoor campaign off depending on the season, but our home decor audience actually stays on all the time. So that surprised me. And I don't know if I would have ever tested that without my mountain rep, which was great.
What a partnership. That's great insight that you were able to get. So congratulations there. You talked a lot about social and omni-channel, and the question from the audience is, does CTV really drive better engagement than social? And if so, tell us how.
So I can jump in here. First of all, I just want to say I'm really glad, Ashlee, you had a really good experience. That would have been incredibly awkward if you didn't. So good to hear. So when it comes to CTV and the engagement, it really is that leaned in experience in the living room. The fact that you're getting a non-skippable 30-second ad when people are sitting on their couch and they're sitting there because they want to watch long form content on the big screen and really engage. So they're sitting in that moment to consume that, to connect with your brand, and to understand your entire story. Like I kind of alluded to earlier, on page search, they're searching for it, but you're really getting, that little block of text and you're clicking through to the site. So you don't learn quite as much. Paid social, similar experience. It's kind of a scroll first environment. People aren't necessarily on there with the highest attention spans to watch long form video content. They're really there to kind of scroll and sometimes scroll very, very quickly. So you're capturing them at different moments. So driving that engagement up front on TV is really kind of irreplaceable. And again, it makes it easier for your other social channels and your other paid search channels to convert later because they're already engaged with your brand, understanding your story. So by the time they get it, that little block of text, that kind of 3 to 10 second engagement on social is enough to drive them to, remember who you are, remember why they care about you, and, go take that next action.
Yeah, and I know over the years we've had tech talks with Mountain and QuickFrame about creative, and just like you said, you're coming to somebody's living room, they're in the moment, they're watching something. You could really kind of get into their heart, if you will, and when you carry that message and that branding across your channels, it just really hits home. So really good points there. Our next question is, someone out there is interested in adding CTV to their 2023 campaigns. All right, they're listening. What advice can you give them to help improve their performance?
I can start, and then I'm sure Jon has some comments as well. So first, highly recommend Mountain. I know there are a lot of CTV providers out there, but do feel very strongly about what they can provide. But I think two big pieces, and they kind of come together, is one, make sure you give it a budget that it can actually learn. I know we're always inclined to give smaller budgets and hope that, then we can build up on that. But because of the vast amount of audiences you can get within Mountain, I do, and CTV in general, I do recommend giving a budget that you can learn from. And then I think be willing to test. I mean, come in with the audiences that you want to launch with, take a look at it, build that out, but be willing to pivot a little bit as well and kind of figure out what works. I think there's opportunities to get granular with state and whatnot, and you're going to be inclined to do that, but listen to your rep or whoever you're working with, but be willing to test. That would be my suggestions to start.
Well, first of all, completely agree with all of those. I would say on top of that, one of the reasons why using a platform like Mountain is probably the place to start, especially if you're a performance marketer, is get something that's built to optimize towards down funnel outcomes. There are other options. There are a ton of players in the space. We totally recognize that. A lot of them are optimized strictly towards reach and branding goals. Getting something that's built to optimize thousands of times per day towards down funnel outcomes will not only help you get your brand in front of consumers, but it'll help you time your ads, serve them to the right people who are highest intent, and really drive that ROAS that we all care about the most. The second piece, just to build on what Ashlee was saying, is when you're doing a test, give it some time to learn. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. If there's a lot of times where, whether you're on Meta, whether you're on CTV, whether you're on paid search, there's kind of a tendency to be a bit jumpy at times. You're looking at performance after 7 days. And realistically, that's just not enough time to actually learn. Oftentimes you're setting a visit window of 14 plus days. You're setting another conversion window of another, week or two. So give yourself the time to, aggregate the amount of visits, aggregate the amount of performance that you're actually getting from your connected TV campaigns to make sure that you can actually evaluate it correctly and understand the performance you're getting, but also give yourself the credit that you're earning with that channel. Because oftentimes, if people are cutting themselves short, they're actually cutting their own strategy short as a performance marketer. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, how do I know how much of my budget I should move from, say, search or social to CTV? What would be your advice there?
I can give it a start, and then Ashlee, I'll pass it to you as well. I would say with paid search, definitely max out what you can. There's obviously going to be a ceiling where you see diminishing returns after you reach a certain number of branded keywords and relevant keywords, but that's going to be your lowest hanging fruit. And it would be disingenuous of me as a marketer to ever recommend cutting away from those people where you could have an opportunity. The bigger opportunity to start is really taking budget from your paid social campaigns, maybe some of your other underperforming campaigns, and shift that to CTV. It's going to start with, maybe you take half of your budget to start. It's different per marketer, and see what that impact is going to be, especially, from CTV, but on that halo effect for paid social. Is it letting you make up some of the performance that you might have been missing from the iOS updates? And test and learn. From there, you kind of readjust your budgets based on how you see fit. And it's going to be unique for every marketer. So Ashlee, whatever you add, you're on the other side of the coin here. So I trust you too.
Yeah, and you hit on it pretty well. But I think, one piece of it too is, and this number is probably extremely outdated, but they used to say it takes about 7 touches for a consumer to even recognize your brand and to potentially convert. So you do want to be still on those channels, as Jon stated. You don't want to just take all your budget and remove it from Meta or Google or wherever you wanted to pull it from. But I think, giving that opportunity, there are more channels than just that. Not everyone's on their phone all the time. They are looking at their TV. They're looking at different things. So make sure you are getting where the audience is and where the estimated reach is, but don't pull all your budget out, but give it a fair shot for sure.
Okay. And the next question, when testing, measuring, and optimizing your creative, how long does it take to update?
So in the Mountain platform, maybe a minute. So you can go in, you can update your creative pretty easily and get it live on TV in just a couple clicks. So pretty immediately, you can kind of go in and look at your performance in real time and make those decisions based on, the performance between the two. Make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck based on your creatives.
I'd like to follow up on that too, that it is extremely easy as someone who is not, always in the platform. So, but to add in your TV ad, but then they also offer a lot of opportunity or a lot of options for adding display, that multi-touch piece we were talking about. There's ways to build your own ads and then also have upload ads. So the tool is very easy to use across both platforms, but less than a minute, and anyone can do it if they know how to use a computer.
That's amazing. What agility there. So you talked a lot about using CTV as a performance marketing channel. And the question is, when putting together a prospecting campaign, how do you approach each marketing channel to build your funnel, drive new audiences to your site, and most especially convert them?
Yeah, I can take that one. There's a couple of things, and especially for prospecting, for targeting is a whole other piece, but looking to see if there are consistencies, if there are things like people, for us example, people who are interested in camping, if there's an opportunity to look at those across the board, looking at that ultimate reach and determining, is this something that's a broad reach? Is it more granular? I think, the opportunities to get more granular do allow you to talk to that high intent audience, but then the more broad, you get to talk to more people. So there's a little bit of both. But we pick those audiences. We look at creative that we think will resonate with them. We're also always looking at A/B testing and testing new things and things that we wouldn't have necessarily thought about. And then once we get them to the website, we're making sure that we're sending them to landing pages that have the correct information that they need, and that they can ultimately learn with, from whatever they learned on the ad, they can then build upon that and then ultimately convert. Each channel is different. There are consistencies between them. I think that's like our ultimate funnel, but making sure that those three pieces, the audience resonates, the creative resonates, and the landing page resonates, you can build that out. It all kind of falls together in the long run.
Thank you. And Ashlee, you talked about the in-depth audience segments that Mountain allows you to target. And we have a question here from the audience, and either you can answer it or Jon can answer it. Can you share a use case for CRM campaigns, regional brands, or niche markets that would include this narrow targeting?
I can jump in here to
Thank
start.
you.
Yeah, for sure. So absolutely for CRM, I'll start there. It's kind of multi-part question. So we use Mountain for our own prospecting campaigns as a B2B business. And we ran some tests early on to look at our own CRM lists. And if you have a scalable CRM list, you absolutely can bring that to TV, which is great for targeting your loyal customers and being able to increase, the value of those and get higher LTV. So we looked at our match rates of LinkedIn. We looked at our match rates of Meta. We even looked at YouTube, which isn't a channel that we deploy because it's something that isn't necessarily a performance marketing channel. But across the board, we saw that our CRM match rates were actually higher on Mountain and on connected TV. So it lets us scale that activation easier, both on a regional and a national level. When we're looking at something that's a bit more of a regional market, there's absolutely ways to drive success. One example that comes to mind is the Atlanta Hawks. They're a company that uses us. Obviously, they're a more regional brand to try to drive ticket sales. And they're able to really effectively target the right sports fans, the right people who are going to come in. Last I checked, they had a 7x ROAS. And one of the things that they do really well that actually Ashlee spoke to is doing a pretty good job of creative agility from TV through that secondary touch. So what they'll often do is they'll show a TV ad that gets people really excited about watching the Hawks, which is not hard to do. They have a highlight reel. That's a lot of fun. But then they'll constantly update that secondary touch point with a more recent game that's coming up. Like the Hawks are playing, the Grizzlies on December 7th. So get your tickets now. And that's helped them a ton. People are really interested in the brand, interested in the team, and then they see the opportunity before them. And, it's a lot harder to ignore that full story. So again, kind of referencing back to what Ashlee said, creating that consistent cohesion for that full funnel experience helps, drive performance in those regional markets.
Thank you. And we talked about a little bit about creative approaches. I love talking about creative. It's so fun. And Ashlee, you touched on how your CTV campaigns are followed up with display. We talked about the halo effect across different channels. And the question from the audience is, what creative approaches have you found that work best when building those cross-channel campaigns? There's something that you can share, either one.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple of things, but the biggest thing is we try to make sure that everything looks similar. So even when we're working with a new provider in the cast service, like we want to make sure that it consistently makes sense with the other ones. Rumpl is a brand, and we want people to be able to say, okay, I saw this ad, even if I didn't see a logo, I know that it's Rumpl because I saw this blanket and it had this feel and it made me feel a certain way, and especially aspirational for us. So we try to use similar photography, and there's brand guidelines, of course, with the same logo and things like that we could go into for a long time, but we try to use similar photography. That's why we have opted into doing shoots actually during our CTV ad. and making sure that the emotives are the same. So even if we don't use necessarily the same imagery, at least it feels the same, so that someone can easily tell something is Rumpl regardless of the platform. For retargeting specifically, we do a different approach. So we actually use more static photography that's more on our design and our blankets. We don't use the follow-up lifestyle typically, because we're at this point, our consumer has seen our TVM, they've been to our website, they know who we are. We want them to learn more about our product pretty quickly. So we're telling them, here's the designs we do, here's about our durability, and we're teaching them a little bit different of a piece of our puzzle. Whereas our net new consumer, we're trying to excite them. We're showcasing a follow-up aspirational, usually lifestyle imagery, so that then they're easily connecting the dots and saying, okay, this ad made me feel this way. Now this display ad's making me feel this way, or this Facebook ad's making me feel this way. And then again, for retargeting, we use a different value prop approach.
Okay, thank you. And we have time for one last question. Let's talk about cross-device verified visits. How does this technology determine if a viewer makes a purchase on a different device, and how does that compare to search and social?
Yeah, absolutely. So we built this patent pending attribution model because we found that historically CTV was taking too much credit, and they were taking duplicative credit for conversions that were driven by search and social. So the way that it works is we can understand what devices are in the same household using our identity graph. So somebody can watch a CTV ad, and then if they visit the brand's website on their phone, and make a purchase, we can kind of connect that one-to-one moment of they visited because of a CTV ad. Sort of like how I referenced earlier, if somebody watches a TV ad and then they click on your paid search ad, they click on your paid social ad, and that drives them to visit the site, then we won't take credit. And the reason being is that would create, duplication, your Google Analytics. It's tougher to actually understand what's driving that site visit, which makes it harder to understand what's working, what's not. And where to adjust your strategies, where to adjust where you invest your budget, what audiences you're targeting, and all of that. So that was kind of the basis for why we do what we do. We want to make it really easy to inform marketers in the right way so they can make the best decisions, not just with CTV, but with everything they're doing.
Thank you. Jon and Ashlee, thank you so much for all this great content, answering so many questions from our audience. Thank you to our audience. There were so many questions coming at us. This was fantastic, engaging, very, very educational. So thank you. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment and tell everybody what's happening across eMarketer's media channels. So I want everybody, first of all, mark your calendar for Friday, March 3rd. What's happening there is we're going to host our next virtual summit, Attention. We have a half a day of programming around retail media. Keep an eye out. We're going to send out the registration information for that really soon. In the meantime, you can always register for more upcoming analyst and tech talk webinars at emarketer.com/webinars. And on February 15th, just after the Eagles get their Super Bowl ring and Jon celebrates his birthday, we're going to have another Tech Talk webinar by Quick Frame by Mountain. So keep an eye out for that. On the audio side of the house, don't forget Behind the Numbers. That's our daily podcasts. And finally, check out your newsletter. But keep an eye on your email as well. We're going to send out a recording to today's presentation, as well as the slides shared around your organization. CTV should definitely be a part of your strategy for this year, and you want to share that information around the organization. So again, thank you all for your time. Thanks again to Jon and Ashlee, the entire team at Mountain, and I'll see you all next week on our next Tech Talk. Bye-bye.